Welcome back to the series Dumbass Sidequests, where we tackle all sorts of gaming challenges, from the stupidly dumb to the stupidly hard. Where today, this sidequest comes from my brain, and the quest is simple. Can I beat Super Mario 64 with a Genesis controller? Super Mario 64 was initially released on the N64 on a less than stellar controller. I mean, seriously, what is this? But, as I used to say,
what Nintendo?
As demonstrated by channels such as Tetrabit Gaming and Nathaniel Bandy. Using modern technology, you can play this three-dimensional classic with anything you want. And personally, I just get a haha funny using a Sega controller on a Nintendo game. So, without any further ado, let's start this side quest. Now, the Sega Genesis Controller has a D-pad, a start button, and 3 face buttons, which is actually about what's used on the N64. We map the D-pad to movement, the A button to jumping, the B button to punching, and the C button to crouching. So, hypothetically, we should be able to do everything in the game, considering the only thing we don't have is the camera. However, it is worth noting how moving around a 3D space with a D-pad actually feels like. You see, the reason an analog stick was added to the N64 controller was for ease of movement. Because an analog stick actually reads more than just 8 directions. It's a full 360 degree movement area where you can move in all sorts of non-angular directions, going in curves and such. The D-pad only allows for 8 directions though, which causes a restraint in movement. So as you'll see in the gameplay here, there are movements where I'll be trying to turn, and because of how the D-pad works, instead of just doing a turn like with an analog stick, Mario instead completely stops and turns his body first. This is a relatively minor thing, but it really does affect the gameplay. The main thing is, since you have to turn so much, and Mario just stops so much, I found I often have to jump to try and build up speed again. Thankfully, the beginning of the game is very forgiving on any mistakes you might make. So I was able to take down King Babam, race Koopa the Quick, and shoot to the island in the sky. But the island in the sky also points out another issue with the D-pad. As I'm sure you know, an analog stick allows for partial inputs, where you can make the movement go slower by not pushing so far on the stick. You can't just partial press a D-pad. The directions of the D-pad are buttons that were designed to tell whether it was being pressed and only if it's being pressed, not how much it's being pressed. So when trying to aim the cannon, you can't just do a small nudge, it's always just a full push, which makes it near impossible to aim certain shots. Notice I say near. Like I said, I was able to get it eventually, but it is a problem that could prevent some shots from being possible. I decided not to go for any more stars in Bob-omb Battlefield, since the other ones require use of the cannon, use of the wing cap, or avoiding a giant chain chomp, which I just wasn't confident enough in my movement to even attempt. We may come back to the earlier levels if we need the stars, but for now we move on to Womp's Fortress, which was a nightmare. Womp's Fortress is made with a bunch of angles that aren't exactly straight, and ones you have to traverse quickly, like with the spinning plank or the falling platforms. Due to all of this, it took me a while to actually get around the stage, but despite that, I stomped King Womp, climbed the tower, shot myself into a wall, dropped into the floating cage, and shot into the wild blue. Also, I forgot to mention before, Womp's Fortress, I did Peach's secret slide, and so now I had 9 stars. But I want to try and get at least 1 star from every stage in the game for this challenge. So I attempted the ice slide in Cool Cool Mountain, and I personally couldn't do it. So instead, I did the most iconic star in this area, bringing the penguin back to its mom, and immediately dropped it off the cliff. This action was required for the star to count. I then went to Dire Dire Docks and tried to get the ship star, but, well, swimming sucks. The limited movement makes swimming around not as fun as it normally is in this game. So instead, I defaulted to getting the chest in the underwater cave. Having done everything on the main floor, it was time for the first Bowser fight. But first, power-ups could be useful against Bowser, and we have over 10 stars, so let's just look up at the light, and oh. Yeah, without camera control, it's impossible to look up into the light to get the wing cap. But honestly, with the movement potential, I wouldn't want to try flying into the sky. So, on to Bowser. The first Bowser fight is easy. We just jump and run to the pipe, then throw him into a bomb, then move on to my least favorite floor in this game. The basement. I started with getting the freebie Toad Star, then decided to enter Shifting Sandland, where I got the star from Klepto, the star at the top of the pyramid, the star inside the pyramid, and I then took a break from Sandy Devastation to lose the footage! I didn't realize this, but my USB on my capture card got full, so I lost the footage for the first bunny chase, as well as the IROC boss, so instead take these short animations I did. I'll try not to lose the footage anymore, but don't be too surprised if it happens again. Anyway, after a few dozen attempts to touch all the secret spots in the pyramid, I took a break to go for a ghost hunt, run around the merry-go-round, find the secret of the haunted books, collect 8 red coins, fight Big Boo on the balcony, and then I took another break to empty out the well and grab the star next to the Vanish Cap button, before returning to see Eye to Eye in the secret room. After this, I went back and got the star for the secret spots, and then went to my least favorite level of this entire game, Lethal Lava Land, to try and get some more stars, which I did by jumping in the volcano and scaling back up it, jumping on a log over lava, and got moving coins in the 8-piece puzzle. Now I want to take this moment to talk about the biggest issue with this challenge, which is the camera. Many worlds, especially late game, has things that just shoot out at random. In normal gameplay, this is to test your reaction time, now that you know how to play the game. In this challenge, however, we don't have any control over the camera, so if Lakitu just decides we don't get to see ahead of us, then we just don't get to see ahead of us, which can lead to frustrating losses, where you're doing everything fine, but die to something you can't see just because Lakitu decided to move. Or not move. This really hit hard in Lethal Lava Land, where it has thin platforms with fireballs bouncing across constantly, as well as bullies trying to bump you off. You hit the lava, Mario goes flying, you hit the fire, Mario takes off like a bullet into the lava, and all of this makes Lethal Lava Land frustrating enough on a normal playthrough. Without control of the camera, it becomes an infuriating run of this world, because you just have no control over what you can see or can't see, so you can just be bumped by a bully due to no fault of your own, either because Lakitu isn't letting you see the dangers, or because Mario decides to just not move when you press the button. So I decided, now that I've had the frustrations of the basement levels, that I would go and retry the stars I couldn't get in the earlier stages. I got the 8 red coins in Bob-omb Battlefield, the ice slide, 8 red coins, and wall jumps in Cool Cool Mountain. Also, you can see it in the footage, I gave in, okay? I used a cheat! I decided I would use the Infinite Lives cheat because it doesn't stop you from dying, and literally all dying does is just put you outside the castle anyway, so the game doesn't truly punish you for losing lives. So that's why I use the Infinite Lives cheat. Consider it a way to save time both doing and editing this challenge. If you want to yell at me for using Infinite Lives, even though it literally changes nothing about the game, considering you still die and game overs don't do anything to your actual progress except boot you out of the castle and waste your time going back to the menu and back to the room where the level is, then fair enough, I guess. But at least I didn't use the infinite health and breath. You know, maybe there's a video in exploring these cheats. Anyway, back to the content. I now had enough stars to open the second Bowser door, so it was time to jump into Dire Dire Docks. Boarding Bowser's sub was fine enough, since you pretty much just swim up and down, though the platforming was slightly frustrating because Lakitu refused to face the right way, but I still did it. And then it was on to Bowser in the Fire Sea, which, funnily enough, for the most part, played like a 2D game, thanks to Lakitu for once choosing a good camera angle, so it was relatively easy, or at least no more difficult than normal. Then we head into the Bowser fight, which was interesting. Bowser gains a new ability in this fight, where once you get close enough to his tail, if you're not fast enough, he disappears. Even with the rolling D-pad the Genesis Controller has, it was still really hard to run in a full circle, let alone do it fast. But ultimately I was able to cheese the fight by throwing him near a bomb and throwing him again to hit it. Though it did make me concerned for the final fight where we'll have to throw him 3 times. Trying to fill my quota, I decided to go and grab the 8 red coin star from Hazy Maze Cave, which I forgot to record! This is why you haven't seen a lot of dumbass side quests. I'm so far onto the dumbass side, I don't have proof of the side quest. Anyway, I got that star and then went right up to the upstairs portion of the castle, which is by far the most varied of the various floors. I got the freebie star from Toad, then hopped off into Tiny Huge Island, as I figured that would be the easiest, considering it's just a tiny and huge version of the islands. Oh boy, was I wrong! They divided the island into two different sections, a section based on you being tiny and one based on you being huge, and there's not a super easy way to get between the two sections. I got 2 stars here, one for plucking oversized flowers and another for reaching the top of the island, so with that one being a dud, at least for now, I decided to go back one more time with as much determination as I can muster. I got the remaining stars in Bob-omb Battlefield, which was the Chain Chomp and the Mario Wings to the Sky star, which was actually more Mario Cannons to the Sky in my case. Then I jumped over to Womp's Fortress and got the 8 red coin star. I avoided there. I then went to Hazy Maze Cave and got the star on the island next to Dory, then the star for getting 8 red coins as Metal Mario, and the Metal Mario Can Move star.
Quick cut in, but I also got the Watch Falling Rock star, so moving on.
I then returned to Dire Docks to try and get some stars there. I was able to get to collect the cap star, as it was basically just walking to the star after getting the caps. As well as the chest from the current star. I decided not to even attempt the Manta Ray rings though, or the rings in the current, as both require at least slightly precise swimming, which just wasn't happening. I then went back to the other water level, Jolly Roger Bay, and got the star in the secret aquarium, then went into the level proper, where I got the treasure in the sunken ship, got the eel to come out to play, I walked through the jet stream, shot myself to a pillar, and finally collected the 8 red coins. Now, before we go back upstairs, we're actually going to go back downstairs, because with 50 stars, the bunny reappears, and we re-grab him for another star. And with that, I exhausted the basement and first floor as far as I want to, so it was time to stick it out upstairs. I started with Snowman's Land, where I got the star in the deep freeze, the top of the snowman's head. I somehow knocked the ice bully into the freezing water. No, seriously, I have no idea how I did this. I was just jumping around, trying not to die, and then the star just spawned. I guess the bully was taking pity on me. Then I whirled up from the freezing pond, snowboarded on a shell for 8 red coins, and finally, I went into the igloo and got the vanish cap for the final star in this area. I then moved on to Wet Dry World, where I got the top of the town star, the shocking aerolift star, in a way that probably wasn't intended. Seriously, I don't think I'm supposed to be able to do this. But I did, so there you go. I got the star for the 5 secrets, and then I got the 8 red coin star, and then I took a quick race through downtown. Next, I went to Tall Tall Mountain, where I got the star at the top and the 8 red coin star. Now we need 3 stars, we have 2 courses left, and 1 freebie star. And I said I was going to get at least 1 star from each level, so we're moving on to the attic, where I talked to Toad for the freebie, then hopped into Tick-Tock Clock first. I just got the 8 red coin star because it was close and is the easiest to get. Now it's time for the final level, Rainbow Ride. I got the first star because I know nothing about this course. But now, with 70 stars, it's time for our final fight against Bowser.
Born with no life into subjugation, treated like a worthless animal, stripped of all rights, just to let her be crushed by cruel, worthless
1 for Lakitu shit camera work, 1 for the lost footage, and 1 for the... I couldn't do it. And the reason why goes all the way back to the start. Because an analog stick actually reads more than just 8 directions. It's a full 360-degree movement area where you can move in all sorts of non-angular directions, going in curves and such. The D-pad only allows for 8 directions, though, which causes a restraint in movement. And spinning Bowser requires you to go in a circle. Now, with a D-pad, you can get a measure of speed but the faster you spin Bowser, the farther you throw him. For the first 2 fights, it was entirely possible, because we could just throw Bowser slowly to the edge right next to the bomb. And here, we were able to do that for the first 2 throws, but for the final throw, has Bowser breaking the very edges of the arena off and forming a star shape, requiring the player to do a long throw into one of the remaining bombs. Most times I simply couldn't get Bowser up to speed, and the few times I could, I wasn't able to time it right to throw him in the proper direction, and Lakitu didn't exactly feel like moving to help me see where the bombs were. So in terms of my physical ability, we yet again trip at the finish line. But if I wasn't so shit at timing, it is possible, so I'm declaring this as a challenge complete. I'll be honest, I initially started this challenge thinking it was just going to be a stupid and quick one, with no real challenge, but the way Mario reacts to only being able to move in 8 directions, and the angles of certain corners and such really made this game challenging, especially in the later levels. More challenging than I could have ever expected. But with this side quest done, let me know what other challenges you want me to attempt in the comments below. And just a quick little side note. The reason why I didn't keep trying the final Bowser throw to try and get the proper timing was because I tried about 10, maybe 15 times, and my thumb literally hurt afterwards because the sharp edges of the D-pad were literally digging and cutting into my finger. So, yeah, that's why I stopped trying. And with that, it's time for me to head off. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and while you're down there, why not leave a comment with your thoughts? If you want to support me, I have a $1 and $5 tier on Patreon. The $1 tier gets your name at the end of each video, in the corner there, in the Patreon corner. And for $5, you get an avatar displayed on screen at the top, along with me saying your name out loud, like... Or, of course, you can support me for free by subscribing down below. And last but not least, I would like you all to remember to stay awesome.